Once again, it's a Tuesday, and it's not a very good day. And of course, that sounder is here to help you say, Stan, do you have something that might be helpful for us today? And I don't know that I do. Oftentimes I say I'd like to have an interesting idea, and we can find those. But sometimes all we need to do is we're trying to look for a way out of the mess we're in, and perhaps some ways that we can do that. So I don't know if this is going to be an interesting idea, but I'd like to talk a little bit about two F words. That's right, two F words, and of course it's not what you're thinking, but they're two words that might be important for us today. And here we go. Fear and fierce. Fear and fierce. Could that be the way that we look at the world right now? My name is Stan Hughes, and the program is Interesting Ideas, and it begins right now. One of the things that I teach people when they are asking me whether they should get involved in radio and podcasting as a way of marketing their business, telling their story, and perhaps doing those things that go into advertising, I often point out that the advantage of what we're doing right now is we can be literally point of the moment. Here we are, and it's a Tuesday, and we got up, and it happened again. Now we have a New York City subway shooting, and of course all of the terror and all of the fear that goes with that. What are we going to do about that? You know, I have a daughter and a grandson who don't live in Brooklyn, but she used to, but she takes the subway to whatever work or appointments she has, and now she's kind of afraid. And now many people who depend on the subway to get around New York City are going to live in fear. What do we do? Well, of course, our leadership is of no help. Right now, I've just fully declared that we are in an entire leadership vacuum. I wish the mayor of New York City all the best in trying to solve the problems, but here we are telling 2-year-olds to wear masks and enforcing that, and here we have murder and mayhem on the subway. Do what's important. Make our cities safe. Do what you have to do to deal with the fears we all have. And then, of course, we've heard of the situation in Shanghai, and that is truly scary about what's going on there. And for some reason, the media has not covered it, but now it's beginning to seep out and creep out. And we're finding that even though it's not a very serious COVID strain, as best we can see, the huge city of Shanghai, around 25 million people, the city in Shanghai, always has been, and they are locking it down. I mean, not just locking it down in the sense that, you know, be careful where you go, maintain 6 feet, wear your mask, don't go to work. You can't even leave your apartment. They are locking you in your apartment, and some people are actually committing suicide and maybe even starving to death. That's in the news today, too. And you go there, we're finding that today is a day that's not very good. And yet we're still trying to make things work. We want to have a faith that the future will be better. But right now, the inflation is going higher and higher, and it doesn't look like things are going to get better. It appears that the Russians are now gearing up for a second try, and they are going to try this time with much more ferocity and brutality to make it happen. What they can't achieve by their military genius, they will try to achieve just by brute strength and terror. The world we live in. And what do we do? Well, first of all, I would like to just suggest that we think seriously about where our fears come from. Now, I have written a book that is now about 20 years old, but it is the basis of literally a video presentation I just made in the last hour. And that is that, in effect, for us to be successful in living life, we are going to have to learn how to deal with our fears. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of deepest darkness, the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. My goodness. That's quite an admonition, quite a request. Don't be afraid. Throughout the Hebrew and Christian scriptures, hundreds of times we hear those words. Deliver us from evil. Don't be afraid. Don't be fretful. That's always a unique word. Fretful. Used very much in many of the admonitions in the Hebrew and Christian scriptures. Don't fret. Don't be afraid. When the angels came, they say, hey, the angels are here. Don't be afraid. So what we have to do right now, all of us, is to actually think about our fear factor. What are we truly afraid of? Why are we afraid of? What are the fears that paralyze us? What are the fears that plague us? What are the fears that kind of push us in the directions we may not want to go? What are you afraid of? And it's okay to be afraid, but as my friend and mentor at a distance, Parker Palmer, would say, don't become your fears. Don't become your fears. And I'm going to just let that sit on your head for a while here at minute number 7. What does that mean? Yes, you may be fearful, but remember, don't be fearful. Did you get the difference? Fearful. Don't be full of fear. And how can you make sure that even though you have fears, you don't become your fears? Why don't you respond to that while we just take a little musical segue break, and we'll be right back with the F word, fear, and then another word which may be helpful to us today. I'm Stan Houston. The program is Interesting Ideas. Thank you for your time. Thank you for giving part of your attention to what we do. We are truly grateful. I'm Stan, and I'm back, and I confess that fears often plague me, even though, as I said, I've written many books and articles on how to deal with your fears. Fear kills everything. Indeed, it does. Remember that. Fear kills everything. Hopes, dreams, aspirations, relationships. Many people are stuck in their life doing what they hate because they're fearful. There is so much fear out there. As someone pointed out, if pain and fear were water, we all would drown. If pain and fear were water, we would all drown. Or, as one of my friends said, maybe we would learn how to swim better. Good challenge to us all. Now, here's the thing that I'm wondering about. It's kind of a different word. Fierce. Now, when I say that word, fierce, Actually, when you say it, the sound of it is almost the feeling of it. Fierce, ferocious. Someone has talked about fierce love. Someone used the term fierce grace. Someone used the term fierce forgiveness. Now, is fierce a good word or a bad word? What about the word ferocious, which of course is related to? If somebody or some animal is ferocious, what do you feel? Is ferocious a bad thing? Is fierce a bad thing? Today, I just want you to think about that because I'm trying to deal with those two terms. I know that if I'm going to be successful in dealing with the life that's before me, and perhaps to be the father I need to be, and to be the partner to a woman that I honor and cherish beyond life itself, there will be times where perhaps I am going to have to be fierce. As I told you, I apologized to my daughter at one time due to all the things that go into father-daughter relationships. And in my attempt to kind of heal some of that stuff, I one time said to her, "I'm sorry. I should have fought for you harder. I should have, I'm your father. Part of my job is to fight for you. I should have not fight with you." My brother, when I told him that, misunderstood. "Oh, you don't want to fight with your daughter?" No, it's just the opposite. I want to love and care for my daughter, but that may mean that in the world that I have as a father for her, I might have to fight for her. And I really did apologize for the fact that I didn't fight harder for her. And so that means now that I'm at this age and stage, and literally I have less to be afraid of, because first of all, I've kind of overcome my fear of death, which, as one great scholar said, once you overcome your fear of death, then all of the other fears can go away. The origin of all of our fears is the fact, Ernest Becker, Denial of Death. Read that book and read it well. It's not an easy book. It's a tough book. But what it says is that the origin of all of our fears is our fear of death. And once we deal with that, and we deal with our own mortality and overcome that fear, you would not believe how much braver and more courageous you can be. So here's the term: fierce, fierce love, fierce grace. A person who's quite ferocious and fierce. By the way, let me give you an example. The Ukrainian Prime Minister, who we all know now, Mr. Zelensky, in his calm, obviously almost passive way, we all know, is incredibly fierce. They said they might kill him. He said, "Let him try." The man is the ultimate in right now a sense of fierceness. What I find rather interesting is that a lot of people who, in effect, admire Mr. Zelensky hated Donald Trump. And part of the problem is they forget that the word that can very much characterize Trump is fierce. He really is. He will tell you that everything he had to achieve in life, he had to fight for, and the man is fierce, going after what he wants and dealing with those who perhaps get in the way of what he wants. Then he uses the other word. He's fierce, and if you mess up, you're fired. Another F word. And so there's a certain fierceness about some of the people that we do admire. I came to the conclusion that calm Abraham Lincoln, the reason he was successful was there was a deep fierceness inside of him. That the cause of slavery and the cause of preserving the American Union took a rather calm and not very successful man, a man who had been a failure, and turned him into a rather ferocious leader, a fierce man. Well, those are my thoughts. Fierce grace, what would that look like? Fierce forgiveness, fierce love, what would that be like? Well, I don't have any particular answer right now, but I have discovered that in our day and age, the problems that are overwhelming us, that we're going to have to find, certainly, a new definition and a new appreciation of true courage. And perhaps we're actually going to have to discover that old word, fierce. Because there is so much fear around, perhaps we're going to have to talk a little bit about the quality and perhaps the ability to live lives of great fierceness. Hey, rambling thoughts. I'm hopeful that they will be helpful. My name is Stan Houston. The program is Interesting Ideas. I'm done with the thoughts for this rather turbulent Tuesday, but we'll be back with just a moment of perhaps a calm and thoughtful idea. One of my friends has suggested to me, as we're writing and talking about the subject of prayer, he simply said this: Stan, pray with great ferocity. Be really fierce in how you pray. Don't be passive. Don't be lackadaisical. Don't be quiet and calm in the best of sense. But in all of that, have a certain fierceness in your passion and in your purpose and in your prayers. Pray fiercely. And perhaps as we pray for all of the things that are in our life these days and the threats there are to our nation, our well-being, even to our children, maybe we need a certain fierceness in our being and a certain real fierceness in our praying. Just let that sit on your head for a while. May it go well for you as well it can the rest of the day. We'll be back Wednesday, and hopefully we'll have something worthwhile to say on Worthwhile Wednesday. Best and blessings. Bye for now.